See. Good morning. Um, Hello, everyone. I Happy Sunday, and I hope that your week has been blessed, and that you haven't had the hail we've had. We've gotten some moisture in Colorado, which yay moisture! But unfortunately, it's come with a lot of wind and a lot of hail, and my garden looks like ass now, so I'm not happy. I um, okay. Everything is set. Everything is set. Sorry, TDM is off to boot camp, and um, I'm happy for her. She sounds really excited. She sounds like she's having a lot of fun. I know that seems weird to say boot camp is fun because it's usually very stressful, but that's what she sounds like. And so she is off, and I'm trying to do the tech stuff all myself, and I don't know how well I'm doing that. So you're not looking at my big messy box of patterns. Yeah, I'm making masks in the background. We are going back to school in Colorado, so I'm trying to get as many made as possible. And um, the book sales have been going really well. Red Velvet and Anemones has been getting such a wonderful um, review. So many reviews, and they're all so good, and I'm just stunned. And so, as part of it is another with the launch thing. I went and I pulled a scene that's not in the book. I pulled a scene actually that's from Tarnished Stars, the very last scene in Tarnished Stars when Tank this Tank meets Millie when Millie comes to Colorado. And this is the Thanksgiving Day afterwards, the very next day when Millie goes to the Ridgeline Ranch to have Thanksgiving lunch with Camille's family from Blue Butterflies. And so the last 3 days, I guess, 3 days, I have been writing this scene just for this reading. So I will go ahead and start. This is Millie's first Pagosa, Colorado Christmas, or Thanksgiving Christmas. I have Christmas on the brain. It's almost the 25th, Christmas in July. All right. Millie sat up suddenly, uncertain where she was. Her things were in this strange room, yet for a panicked moment she was confused. Then it all came back. Laying back down, Millie glanced at the clock on the dresser before putting her arm over her eyes. It was 4 a.m. 3 a.m. Las Vegas time. Millie groaned as her internal clock prodded her to get up. After a few minutes of tossing and turning, Millie angrily crawled out of bed and stomped into the bathroom to relieve herself. Glaring in the mirror at the dark bags under her jade eyes, as she washed her hands, she snarled at herself, "Go back to sleep." And go back to sleep. Go back to sleep. But the longer she lingered in front of the mirror, the more awake and angrier she got. Go back to bed. Go back to sleep, she stammered through gritted teeth. She didn't need to be up to go get Marnie. Her sister was dead. Panting as tears of grief and rage leaked from her bright green eyes, "I don't have to go get her. I never have to go get that whore again. I'm going back to bed." Millie stormed back to her room and threw herself down on the mattress with an oof. Lying on her stomach, she held on to the edge of the mattress as hard as she could until her hands ached. Her socked feet curled as her whole body shook. "No, I don't have to get up. I don't have to get up, she cried into her pillow. She battled against the eternal clock she had lived with for the last 2 years. Marnie wasn't waiting for her at the Velvet Rope Club. Millie didn't need to bring her sister home before going to the famous Vegas cakery. That life had ended 12 days ago. Rolling over on her back, she felt a smear of tears and snot across her face. She screamed her anguish into the silent house. I hate you, Marnie. I hate you, and I hate Edgar. I'm glad you're dead. I wish he was dead, too. As she laid there panting, a small, whimpering cry of her sister's baby came from across the hall. Wiping her face with her sleeve, Millie walked across the hall to tend Emily. She changed the newborn's diaper and carried her into the kitchen. Millie's hand shook as she measured the formula. Before Emily, Millie hadn't made bottles for a baby since Duran. The memory of her late baby brother choked her, and suddenly she regretted her shouted hatred. Shh, it's okay, Emily. Auntie didn't mean it. I'm sorry your mommy died. Sitting in the heavy antique rocking chair, Elizabeth had Bo Wallace carry over from the wild anemone. Millie fed her niece as she tried not to cry. Emily fell asleep quickly after the bottle was empty, but Millie's pain didn't subside. Instead, it got worse. Putting the baby in her crib, Millie pressed her hand hard over her mouth. Her sobs whistled out between her fingers as she stared at the mural above the bed. Her beautiful sister, painted as the Queen of Fairies, looked at her serenely with a kind smile. Millie ran back to the kitchen and sat on the floor sobbing. Turning on the local weather, the person giving the news wished everyone a happy Thanksgiving before the jolly anchor started taunting about the incoming snow. Their cheerful banter made her feel sick to the bottom of her soul. She had nothing to be thankful for, so she turned it off. On autopilot, Millie began pulling the ingredients for a red velvet cake from the pantry. While it baked in simple 9-inch rounds, she also made pies to take to the Wallace Ranch. As the cakes cooled, she mixed and chilled frosting. She hadn't unpacked her decorating tools, so she found a simple spatula to spread the frosting. Oddly, the cake didn't rise like it normally did, and Millie wondered if her baking was as down as her mood. She showered and made herself as presentable as possible before waking Millie and dressing her in an adorable outfit her best friend Jackson had gotten for Marnie's baby shower. Let's go, sweetheart. Time to pretend to be okay for a few hours. Aunt Elizabeth was sitting in the rocking chair, petting Marnie's cat when Millie came out. Shocked, Millie realized she hadn't heard the centenarian come in. Good morning, Millie. Did you sleep well? It smells like you've had a productive morning. I did, Auntie. Are you ready to go after Emily has her second breakfast? Millie tried to sound upbeat. She put the child in the old woman's outstretched arms and started a bottle as Emily and Elizabeth rocked slowly together. 104 and 10 days. The drive out to the Ridgeline Ranch was icy and slightly terrifying to Millie. Ben Wallace waved from the tractor as he finished plowing the drive. Millie followed him, worried about getting her little car out if it got stuck. She suddenly wished she had driven the heavier, taller rental van. Camille came out and helped Elizabeth in as Willow and Gracie fought over who got to carry Emily's car seat inside. Bo carried the two pies while Millie got the cake. "The turkey is in the fryer, and Tank will be joining us soon," Grandma Doreen announced as she stirred the gravy. Millie unpacked the desserts. "I didn't know what to bring, and Grandpa Ben said he liked cake, so I brought two pies and a red velvet cake." Camille came in, carrying Emily on her shoulder. "You really didn't have to bring anything, but I'm sure Bo will be happy to be saved from my version of cake." Chuckling, Bo inhaled the smell of the red velvet. "Sorry, Cam, but it even smells better than yours." "Oh, pecan and pumpkin pies. Thank you, Millie. You didn't I don't even have the ones thawed we bought yet," Doreen revealed. Millie nodded. "The pumpkin is a traditional pie, but the pecan has a layer of ricotta cheesecake baked in the bottom. They were the best sellers at the cakery." Millie grinned, then sheepishly added, "My body got me up for work, so I baked." "Miss Millie, come and see what we found." Willow or Gracie dragged Millie from the kitchen. The other of the nearly identical sisters eyed Millie with deep sapphire eyes. "Yep, that's her." Millie was surprised to see herself on the TV and instantly recognized it as from the Under the Hallowed Veil Halloween Wedding Cake Wars. She blushed. "Well, you found me out." Aunt Elizabeth settled into a chair. "Ah, this was the pomegranate-filled dark chocolate velvet." "Yes, Auntie." Millie felt embarrassed by the scrutiny. "Don't be shy, child. I've watched every episode of Cake Wars, and am looking forward to tasting every one of the cakes you made." Elizabeth grinned, and the one Millie suspected was Willow called dibs. They watched the first episode before Thanksgiving lunch was served, asking Millie dozens of questions, then watched another episode while Camille and Millie did dishes. "Sorry about my girls. They've never met anyone famous," Camille apologized. Millie looked at the Olympian in shock. But you're their mother. Don't they know who you are?" "The famous blue butterfly. Yeah, they know. But to them I'm just Mom." Camille began drying the plates. What what about their fathers?" Millie had not seen a single picture of Willow or Gracie's father in the rustic homestead full of family memories. "Those men don't deserve a moment of my daughters' lives," Camille hissed, and Millie looked at her shocked. Sighing, Camille explained. "Wilhelmina met Kent in college. She ignored him and all his money, but then I broke my arm, and he helped her get to the hospital while I was in surgery. He discovered that being the decent guy meant more to Mina than all his money and gifts. So that was the card he played. They got engaged, and I really thought he was the one for her, that he loved her. I met his brother, and Kyle put the exact same act on me. Shared interest and good conversation, and false attentiveness." Camille's voice had a bitter edge that Millie could almost taste, like green tea powder. It felt the same as she felt about Edgar. "What happened?" Millie asked. "Their bachelor party happened," Camille snorted. "They took a bunch of pictures of them with these whores painted up to look like me and my sister. I worked for a cellular call center, and Kent was on our plan, so the pictures went straight to our shared cloud account. My sister sent me a picture of her pregnancy test, and that was how we found out the truth of our fiancé's affections. We found out we had been had. I was so mad. We saw those pictures, and I was done. But Mina broke down. The next day, she was supposed to come home to Colorado, while I handled canceling her and Kent's wedding. But she left early. She changed her flight to Vegas. She was going to bring Kent home. Camille's hands shook slightly as she finished drying the plate, and she almost dropped it, so she put it down on the counter. Mina had a terrible accident on the way to the airport. She lived on life support long enough to give us Willow. I spent so many months at the hospital, holding her hand and waiting. There was nothing else to do except hold her hand and pray until Willow was born. Millie drained the water and began wiping the counter. Her heart ached for Camille. So she asked, "What happened then?" "I canceled everyone on our side of the wedding, so only their guests were there. Kent and Kyle walked in with their brother while I was giving a very special slideshow to the reception. I showed all their family and friends and business partners the less R-rated photos from their bachelor party. They just looked so surprised that we had caught them." Camille laughed in malevolent memory. After they were speechless, I showed them the video of Mina's accident scene. I didn't even know if my sister would live the day, much less the week, so I let them think she was dead. I mean, she was almost brain dead, and everything about my sister died in the accident. I gave them back Mina's ring and walked out. I've never looked back, and I don't regret it. Millie was shocked. She could never imagine doing something so dramatic. "You were so brave to face them like that," Millie breathed out, thinking about how she had just packed up and left after only calling Heath once, the evening of Marnie's death and Emily's birth. Camille shook her head. "It wasn't bravery, it was rage. Pure, blind rage. I have 328 images that support my feelings. I never looked back. I never will. Kyle had asked me to be his girlfriend that morning before he left, knowing full well he would be screwing some whore with a fake tattoo like mine only 14 hours later. So I gave it to him and his whoremongering brothers with both barrels. They should be glad there wasn't a pool at the wedding venue, or I would have drowned them all." Camille tipped her head, and Millie could see the pain still swirling in her hazel eyes. "Didn't you want to hurt your ex when you found out he cheated?" Millie looked down. "Yeah, but I'm Catholic. I'm just going to pray to forgive him every day and let the Lord take care of the rest." Camille's eyes telegraphed all her sympathy. "You're so sweet, Millie." Then they twinkled with amusement. "As sweet as the cake you bake." Millie laughed at her tone as Gracie came in. "Mom, stop hogging Miss Millie." "Your fans are calling," Camille grinned, as her daughter dragged Millie back to the sunroom for another round of 20,000 questions. The video on the TV was the first Mother's Day Cake Wars Millie had just started on the program. She had lost, but it didn't dampen the enthusiasm of Gracie. At 3 p.m., Doreen was holding a sleeping Emily while talking quietly with Elizabeth as Gracie watched the end of the cake wars Millie had lost. Willow had gone into the living room where Bo and Tank were yelling at the football game, while Camille laughed at them. Peeking at Camille, curled up next to the giant blonde sheriff, Millie thought they made a lovely couple. She almost laughed at Camille's claim to answer Tank's question about more cake. "If I eat any more, I'll have to start wearing Bo's clothes. But can I have a cocoa?" Bo and Grandpa Ben laughed at her statement. Then Bo said, "I want another too. I don't think I've ever tasted anything as good. Sorry, Cam, but your box cake mix sucks." Camille retorted, "Still better than your biscuits, pucks, and snot." My gravy isn't that bad, Bo defended himself. Then Willow chimed in. Uncle Bo, the dogs won't eat your gravy, and the chickens won't eat your biscuits. So, yeah, you should stop lying to yourself. It really is that bad. No, it isn't, Bo insisted. The dogs eat it eventually. Eventually? Eventually? Willow exclaimed, then threatened. Quit trying to poison Petey and Bingo, or I'll call the Humane Society on you. Millie giggled as the family bickered about Bo's bad gravy. She followed Tank into the kitchen. Do you want another slice of pie, Sheriff? Millie asked sweetly, seeing him eye the pumpkin. No, no thank you, Miss Millie. They've never tasted right to me since my divorce, he explained. She tipped her head at him. His eyes reminded her of the summer sky, but there was a little bit of pain in them. Tell me about it, and I can figure out the flavor profile. Tank shook his head. It's not that, ma'am. Irene was a terrible cook. She'd burn the edges and the middle would still be raw. But I always ate them because she tried so hard. He seemed so chivalrous. Millie tried to cheer him, so she laughed. I don't think I could bake one that way if I tried. How about pecan, then? This one has a lovely layer of cheesecake baked into the bottom. Millie expertly sliced and plated the pie. Tank cut off the tip of the slice with his fork. The caramelized pecan filling oozed around with slightly salted roast pecans mixed against the tart and sweet ricotta cheesecake in the bottom. Below was a perfect flaky crust. It melted in his mouth like heaven. Oh my God, he groaned. This is amazing. Millie smiled sweetly. Tell me your favorite thing and I'll bake it. I get bored. Grinning, Tank took another bite. Today, this is my favorite thing. Bo and Camille came in at that moment, and Tank held out a bite to Camille, who groaned happily, then gave Millie the most beautiful smile as she winked at Tank. Sorry, Tank, I'm going to have to leave you for Millie. She bakes my favorite things. Millie giggled as she handed Bo a piece of red velvet cake. Sorry, Coach Wally, but I can't. You'd get fat and they'd start calling you Coach Walrus. Bursting out in raucous laughter, the men almost fell over, but Camille shrugged unashamed. I could be Coach Walrus for a lifetime supply of this cake. Picking up her cocoa mud, she followed Millie giggling out of the kitchen. In the sunroom, Emily slept, sweetly oblivious to all the noise. Doreen and Elizabeth were watching another episode with Gracie. Camille looked from the child, then turned to Millie. Thanks for baking. I know you do it all the time. You should be taking it easy after your move. I didn't mind. I wake up at the same time every day anyway. My body doesn't understand we're on vacation. Millie followed as Camille carried her cocoa into the living room. Boys, the game's back on, Camille called out. And leave some sweets for tomorrow. I don't think so, Bo taunted back from the kitchen. Then he came back with a plate full of desserts and sat down next to Grandpa Ben. Millie watched the family who had welcomed her into their holiday tradition, being grateful for the good people of the Ridgeline Ranch. Maybe Pagosa Cliffs wouldn't be so bad after all. Tank settled himself next to Camille as he smiled at Millie. Ma'am, if you ever need anything, you can pay me in pie and cake. Millie tapped her chin thoughtfully, then said, Well, Sheriff, there is my ex-husband's body. Bo choked, chortling on a bite of cake. Laughing, Tank saluted Millie with his fork. Consider him bear food, ma'am. Millie nodded and went back to watch another episode of Cake Wars with Gracie, Doreen, and Elizabeth. Watching and remembering those shows helped Millie forget about Marnie's portrayal, at least for that afternoon. And that's the end. That's the end of the edition that I wrote from the last chapter of Tarnished Stars, which is on my Inkit and Facebook and Wattpad. So if you need to find me, I'm under the Penumbra Mine screen name, Ward, on all of them. And I'm supposed to tell you that Red Velvet and Anemones is available for Amazon Kindle. It's on Kobo Reader, Barnes & Nobles, Apple iBooks, and Smashwords. And there's links on my main page. And the hard copy, the paperback, will be coming out soon. I think they're formatting, so that will be available soon. And thanks for joining the stream. And hi, Miss Christine, my daughter's preschool teacher 15 years ago. She's a wonderful lady and just makes everyone who meets her blessed. I hope you have a lovely week. I might be back midweek to read the first chapter of Tarnished Stars, debating on that. And just choose to be better, not bitter. And I hope you and your family stay healthy and happy and blessed. Thank you. Bye.